The Galactic Council was a marvel of unity, or so it appeared. A rotating assembly of races from every corner of the galaxy, each with its own perspective, its own ambitions, yet bound together by a fragile thread of peace. Its halls were filled with representatives of countless species, some humanoid, others barely recognizable, but all united in the pursuit of one goal: stability. It was here, amid the marble floors and towering arches of the Council's central chamber, that humanity's fate would be decided. Ilara Vos, the United Earth Federation's lead negotiator, stood at the forefront of her delegation, facing the counselors who sat in judgment. The room was vast, a grand structure designed to impress and intimidate. The high windows let in the glow of a distant star, casting the room in an ethereal light. But Ilara barely noticed the grandeur. Her focus was entirely on the beings in front of her. Sitting on the Council's central podium were the leaders of the most powerful factions in the galaxy. Each one had their own agenda, their own reasons for supporting or opposing humanity's membership in the Galactic Coalition. The representatives of the Zuldar, a race of insected tacticians known for their cold logic, sat closest to the podium. On the other side, the Nori, a telepathic species of ancient philosophers, watched with a calm, unsettling stillness. But it was the final representative, the one who had stood silent until now, that commanded the most attention. Supreme Leader Aarkin of the Trackeri, a species of massive, armored beings whose strength was unmatched, watched Ilara with cold, calculating eyes. He was the most powerful member of the Council, the one who could sway the vote. And his opinion on humanity's place in the galaxy had always been clear: Earth was a threat. Ilara's hands rested on the table in front of her, her fingers drumming lightly against the smooth surface. It had taken everything she had to get this far, to stand in front of the Galactic Council, to argue that humanity deserved a place among the stars. But today was different. Today, it wasn't just a matter of negotiation. It was about survival. Commander Vos, Aarkin's voice rumbled, breaking the silence. Your species has made an intriguing case, but we are left with one undeniable fact. The human race is volatile. It is dangerous. And your constant need to expand your borders has led to nothing but conflict. Ilara took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. This was nothing new. She had expected Aarkin's words, his condemnation of humanity's desire for exploration, for growth. The Trackeri had always been opposed to human expansion, at least, in the way humanity had chosen to approach it. Supreme Leader, Ilara said, her voice steady but resolute. Humanity has made mistakes, yes. But we have also learned from them. We have fought wars, yes, but we have also brokered peace. We have advanced technologically, but we have also improved our societies. We are not the same people we were centuries ago. We seek peace, not domination. Peace? The Zuldar representative, LRH, hissed from his seat. His antennae twitched, and his multifaceted eyes glinted in the light. How can you speak of peace when your history is drenched in blood? Your planet has fought among itself for eons. Your governments are fractured. Your species divided. Ilara's pulse quickened, but she stood her ground. Our history is not perfect, but it is not unique. Every species has its dark chapters. The difference is we have learned. We have united. The United Earth Federation is a beacon of cooperation in a fractured world. We have reached out to our neighbors in peace, and we continue to do so. The question is, can the galaxy trust us to bring that same peace to the stars? There was a long pause. A flicker of doubt passed over the faces of some of the counselors, but it was short-lived. Aarkin's gaze remained unyielding, his massive form a monolith of judgment. Ilara Vos, he said, leaning forward in his seat. You ask for trust, yet you fail to recognize the underlying truth. The humans are not ready. You seek to join the coalition, but your species has not yet mastered your own borders. Your people are divided by conflicts that no other species would tolerate. How can you expect us to welcome you into a galactic alliance when your own house is not in order? The words stung, but Ilara held her composure. We acknowledge our flaws. But we are not asking for your forgiveness or for an easy path. We are asking for the opportunity to prove ourselves. To show the galaxy that we can be a force for good. The room fell silent as the counselors exchanged glances. The debate had gone on for hours, with each side making its points, its rebuttals. And yet, no decision had been reached. Elara knew what was coming. The council would vote, as they always did. But this time, it was different. This time, the stakes were higher than ever. Finally, Ralk, the presiding officer of the council, spoke. His voice echoed in the chamber, deep and commanding. It is clear that humanity has much to offer, but it is also clear that there are still too many doubts. The council will now vote. Elara felt a knot form in her stomach. This was the moment. She had given everything to this cause. If the council voted against Earth's membership, humanity would be left isolated, cut off from the galaxy's vast resources and alliances. The consequences would be dire. One by one, the councilors cast their votes, their opinions a matter of galactic record. The results were displayed on the massive holographic screen above them. The vote was close, too close. Elara watched as the final vote was tallied. The message was clear: the galaxy was divided. Humanity was not welcome. Not yet. The chamber erupted into murmurs, and Elara's heart sank. She had failed. The council's decision was final. Earth was once again a pariah in the eyes of the galaxy. But as the meeting adjourned and the representatives began to leave, Elara's mind raced. This was not the end. She had a plan, one that would force the council to see humanity for what it truly was. She had prepared for this moment, for the possibility of rejection. As the doors to the council chamber closed behind her, Elara turned to her team, her voice resolute. "We withdraw from the peace talks," she said, "and we will make them realize their mistake. Humanity would not be silenced. Not now. Not ever." The doors to the Galactic Council chamber had barely closed before Elara Vos turned sharply, her gaze focused on her team. The weight of the council's decision hung heavy in the air, a suffocating reminder that despite their best efforts, humanity had been denied. For a moment, she allowed herself to absorb the sting of the rejection. It was personal now. Her entire life had led to this moment, this one opportunity to prove humanity's worth on a galactic scale, and it had slipped through her fingers. But Elara wasn't one to wallow in defeat. The rejection from the council didn't mean the end of humanity's aspirations, it was just another obstacle to overcome. A better, more powerful humanity had been forged from hardship and conflict before. And now, it was time to prove they were capable of more than just survival. "Commander Vos," Lieutenant Jorik's voice cut through her thoughts, calm but firm. He stepped closer, his tall figure looming slightly over her. "What's the next step?" Elara's eyes flickered to the holographic display on the wall, images of Earth's greatest achievements. They had made it this far because they were relentless, driven by a fire that refused to go out. The Council's rejection didn't change that. It only made them more determined. "We withdraw from the peace talks," Elara said, her voice steady but laced with an edge. "But not in defeat. We're going to make them regret this decision. Humanity will not be cast aside. Not by the galaxy, and not by the Council." Jorik gave a slow nod. He knew this was coming, but it didn't make it any easier to hear. "How?" Elara's gaze shifted to the center of the room, where the communications officer stood, watching her with expectant eyes. "Prepare the fleet. It's time we made our own place among the stars." Hours later, the Endurance, the flagship of the United Earth Fleet, loomed in orbit around Earth, a colossal presence in the vastness of space. The sleek warship was equipped with the latest human-made technology, a symbol of humanity's potential, of the very future the Galactic Council had just rejected. In the ship's command center, Elara stood at the helm, her fingers running over the console as the crew worked in silence. The atmosphere was tense, charged with purpose. Elara had given them the order to prepare for what was to come. This wasn't about running from the Council's decision. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity had more to offer than what the Council had seen. Jorik walked in, his expression serious. The fleet's ready, Commander. But we're going to need more than just our ships. If we want the Council to notice us, we have to make a statement. Something that will shake the galaxy to its core. Elara met his gaze, her mind already working through the possibilities. I know what we need to do. It's time for humanity to make its presence known. We won't just show them what we're capable of, we'll make them understand. The plan she had in mind was risky, even by her standards. But there was no other way. Humanity needed a victory, something undeniable. Something that would force the Council to see them for what they truly were. She looked over at the map of the galaxy displayed on the screen. Their destination was clear. We're heading to the core worlds, she said firmly. The heart of the Galactic Council's influence. We'll make a direct challenge to their authority. Jorik raised an eyebrow. You're talking about taking on the entire Council's fleet, Commander. You know the consequences. Elara's expression hardened. We've already been rejected. There's no more room for diplomacy. If the Council wants war, then let's show them what humanity is truly capable of. We've already been fighting for survival for centuries. Now we're going to fight for respect. As the fleet began its journey toward the core worlds, Elara sat alone in her quarters, staring out at the swirling darkness of space. She could feel the weight of what they were about to do pressing down on her. She wasn't naive, this was a gamble, and a dangerous one. But what other choice did they have? If humanity couldn't secure a place in the galaxy by peaceful means, they would carve it out with strength. The door to her quarters opened, and Jorik stepped inside. His expression was more solemn than usual, and Elara could tell he was wrestling with his own doubts. But she knew that he understood the gravity of the situation. They had to make a stand. Elara, Jorik began, his voice softer now. Are you sure this is the right path? We're about to challenge the entire galactic order. We could be making an enemy of everyone. Elara didn't look at him. Instead, she focused on the stars outside the window. The galaxy thinks they can push us aside. They think that because we're young and flawed, we don't deserve a place at the table. But they're wrong. We've built this fleet from nothing. We've faced down our own demons. And we've come together to stand as one. The Council will see that, whether they want to or not. Jorik nodded, understanding the fire behind her words. He had seen humanity's potential firsthand. And though he had his doubts, he knew Elara's resolve was unshakable. We're with you, Commander, he said simply. Elara turned to face him, her eyes steely with determination. We'll show the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. And if the Council wants to challenge that, then let them come. As the fleet drew closer to the core worlds, Elara gave the order to ready the ships. The moment of reckoning was fast approaching. Humanity was no longer going to beg for respect. They were going to take it. The message was clear, and it would echo across the galaxy. No one could deny humanity's place among the stars any longer. They would make them see. And if the Council couldn't accept that, then it would be the galaxy's loss. The silence of space was unnerving. It was a vast, endless void that only the bravest or most desperate dared to traverse. And as the Endurance and its fleet surged toward the core worlds, the silence felt deafening. Commander Elara Vos stood in front of the observation window, her gaze fixed on the swirling expanse of stars, galaxies, and the distant glow of the core worlds. In her chest, her heart beat with a steady rhythm, but beneath that, a current of tension ran deep. The stakes were higher than they had ever been. The decision to head straight for the heart of the Galactic Council was a declaration of war, yes, but more importantly, of survival. Humanity was not just fighting for a seat at the table anymore. They were fighting to prove they belonged in the galaxy. Elara! Jorik's voice interrupted her thoughts, his tone sharper than usual. He stood at her side, his posture stiff. The Council has responded. Their fleet is assembling at the outer rim of the core worlds. They're readying to block us. Elara's eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. She had expected this. What had surprised her was the speed with which the Council had reacted. They had underestimated humanity before, but now the stakes were far too high to ignore. Prepare our fleet for battle, Elara said, her voice calm, almost detached. This is our moment. We don't back down. Jorik hesitated, his eyes flickering with concern. We can't win a war with them, not outright. The core worlds are heavily fortified. And their fleet. We're not here to win a war, Jorik, Elara interjected, turning toward him. Her voice was quiet but firm, each word laden with purpose. We're here to make a statement. To show them that we're not afraid. That they can't just push us around anymore. Jorik met her gaze for a long moment, his features tense but understanding. Finally, he nodded. I'll see to the preparations. The Endurance moved closer to the core worlds, its engines purring with power as it cut through the void. The fleet followed in tight formation, an imposing force ready to strike. As they neared the outskirts of the system, the first sign of resistance appeared, an enormous mass of ships, each one a battle-hardened titan of the galactic military. It was a force that far outnumbered them, and it was moving toward them with deadly precision. In the command center, the hum of activity intensified. Officers and technicians were at their stations, working swiftly to prepare the fleet for the inevitable. Elara stood at the center of it all, her hands steady on the console as the ship's sensors began to track the enemy fleet's movements. We've got a fleet coming at us, Commander, the communications officer said, his voice tight. Their ships are already locking onto our position. They're preparing to engage. Elara looked at the screen, her fingers tapping against the console in thought. There was no turning back now. The Council had forced their hand, and now it was time to show them exactly who they were dealing with. Activate the ECMs, she ordered. We'll scramble their sensors. Get us close enough for a direct strike, but keep their attention focused on our rear fleet. Her officers worked in unison, fingers flying over controls as the Endurance shifted position, moving strategically into place. The ECM systems activated, sending out a pulse of interference that muddled the enemy's tracking systems. It wasn't enough to completely blind their sensors, but it would buy them time, give them the advantage they needed to make the first move. We're in position, Jorik reported, standing beside Elara, his eyes scanning the tactical display. We're ready to engage. Elara's hand hovered over the button that would initiate the first salvo of their offensive. She hesitated for just a moment, knowing the weight of the decision that would follow. This wasn't just about engaging a hostile force. It was about proving that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. They wouldn't back down. They couldn't. Fire! She commanded. The Endurance's cannons roared to life, sending a barrage of energy blasts into the oncoming enemy fleet. The ships ahead of them exploded into clouds of debris and flame as the beams hit their marks with precision. But the enemy didn't flinch. They retaliated immediately, returning fire with their own weapons. The Endurance shook violently as blasts hit their shields, but they held strong, reinforced by the crew's swift actions. Shields are holding, the tactical officer shouted. But we're taking heavy fire. We need to move. Elara gritted her teeth, her eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding before her. The fleet was now in the thick of it. The Council's ships were closing in fast, and the battle had escalated. But Elara's focus was unshakable. She wasn't just leading a fleet. She was leading humanity's future. Redirect all energy to the forward shields, Elara barked. We need to push through their line. Prepare the fighters for a full assault. The battle raged on as the Endurance pushed forward, cutting through the enemy lines with unrelenting force. The battle had shifted in humanity's favor. The Council's fleet was larger, but humanity was quick, adaptable, and determined. They used their speed to their advantage, slipping past the heavier ships and hitting vital points with surgical precision. Jorik's voice crackled through her comms. Commander, we've breached their defense perimeter. Their command ship is within our sights. Elara's heart raced, but she didn't hesitate. This was the moment. The time to send the final message. Target the command ship, Elara ordered. Take it down. This battle ends now. The Endurance fired its final volley, hitting the enemy command ship with a devastating energy blast. The ship shattered, its core exploding in a fiery burst. The remaining enemy ships faltered, their resolve shaken by the sheer force of humanity's attack. The battlefield fell silent. Elara watched as the remnants of the Council's fleet drifted in the void, crippled and in disarray. She exhaled slowly, her eyes scanning the aftermath. They had done it. Humanity had sent its message, loud and clear. "This battle is over," Elara said quietly, her voice carrying through the command center. "And the Council has been given a choice: accept humanity, or face us again. But know this, we will not be ignored." As the crew cheered and the fleet began its retreat, Elara turned toward Jorik, her face expressionless. "Prepare the fleet. We're heading back to Earth. The galaxy would never be the same again.